The vow beneath the Bodhi tree. The night Siddhartha refused to rise. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after recovering by the Nairanjana River, Siddhartha finally came to the Bodhi tree and made a deep vow. He had passed through the comfort of the palace, the high meditations of great teachers, and the severe austerity of 6 long years. None of those paths had been useless, yet none of them had shown him the complete end of suffering. Now Siddhartha was no longer looking outside himself for the final answer. He understood that the deepest question had to be faced in the quiet center of his own heart, and so he sat beneath the Bodhi tree. Today's story begins as Siddhartha leaves the riverbank and walks toward the tree that would become the place of awakening. His steps were not hurried, yet they were no longer uncertain. When he first left the palace, his heart carried both sorrow and trembling. When he left his teachers, the question still followed him like a heavy shadow. When he practiced austerity, he pushed the body almost to its breaking point, hoping that pain itself might open the way. But now his steps carried a different kind of stillness. It was not the ease of someone who already possessed the answer, but the quiet strength of one who had passed through many roads, and finally understood that neither comfort nor self-torment could lead him all the way. When Siddhartha reached the Bodhi tree, he prepared a place to sit. Some traditions say he received grass and spread it beneath him. Others simply remember him sitting in the quiet shade of the tree. But the outward form of the seat was not the heart of the story. It was not a royal throne. It was not a place for display. It was not a stage where a seeker tried to show the world the strength of his practice. It was a simple seat beneath a tree, where one person gathered every question of his life and turned toward the deepest truth without turning away. He sat down and placed his body upright. The body that had once been weakened by years of austerity had slowly regained enough strength through Sujata's offering and the recovery by the river. Now that body was no longer something to hate, and it was no longer something to indulge. It was a place to sit, a vessel through which the mind could become clear. Siddhartha understood that the body did not need to be destroyed for wisdom to arise, and it did not need to be worshipped for life to feel safe. It needed to be held in balance, steady enough to support deep seeing. The night around him grew quiet. The forest breathed in a softer rhythm, and the wind moved slowly through the leaves. The sounds of the world faded into the distance, while beneath the Bodhi tree one silent resolve remained. Siddhartha looked back, not with regret, but with a clear mind. The palace had shown him the limit of pleasure. The teachers had shown him the depth of meditation. The years of severe austerity had shown him the limit of self-torment. Each part of the journey had become a teacher, and every road he had walked now gathered into this single night. There, beneath the tree, Siddhartha made his vow. Until awakening was reached, he would not rise from that place. This was not the stubbornness of someone trying to punish himself. It was not the harsh will of the ascetic who once believed that the body had to be broken. It was a different kind of determination. It was quiet, steady, and clear. He was not forcing himself toward truth through pain. He was choosing not to run away from truth when it appeared. He would sit. He would look deeply. He would not turn aside from the beginning and ending of suffering. This vow was deeper than words. Some promises are spoken loudly and quickly disappear, but other promises are made in silence and remain for a lifetime. Siddhartha did not make his vow to impress the world. He did not sit there to defeat another person, to gain praise, or to prove his holiness. He sat because the question that had carried him from the palace to the forest had reached its final place. He would no longer ask another teacher to finish the path for him. He would no longer search for freedom in comfort or in pain. He would look directly into the heart of suffering itself. The stillness of that night was not empty. It held everything. It held the memory of the sleeping palace on the night of departure. It held the faces of those he had left behind. It held the quiet teachings of Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta. It held the 5 ascetics, the hunger of the forest, the song of the string that must not be too tight or too loose, Sujata's bowl of milk rice, and the flowing water of the Nairanjana River. All of these moments now rested within him, no longer pulling him in different directions, but becoming part of one clear path. Siddhartha's heart did not need to chase anything. It did not need to reject anything with anger. It only needed to see. This is why the vow beneath the Bodhi tree carries such a deep meaning. It was not a vow of violence against the self. It was not a vow to escape the world by hating it. It was a vow to remain awake, to meet the truth without fear, and to let the mind become clear enough to understand what keeps beings bound to suffering. The night was deep, and the final awakening had not yet come. There would still be one last shaking of the heart. Fear, desire, and doubt would gather at the edge of this silence. The old habits of the mind would not disappear easily. But Siddhartha did not rush. He had already passed through the softness of pleasure and the harshness of self-torment. Now what remained was the most simple and difficult thing: to sit rightly, to see rightly, and to remain until the truth was fully known. To someone looking from the outside, the scene may have seemed almost ordinary. A man was sitting beneath a tree at night. No palace stood around him. No crowd watched him. No great sound filled the air. Yet within that quiet scene, the direction of a life was being decided. The long search was no longer moving from place to place. It had come to rest in one seat, one breath, one unwavering heart. This is how the story of Siddhartha's vow beneath the Bodhi tree quietly comes to a close. It reminds us that there are times when the deepest change does not begin with movement, but with stillness. Sometimes we do not need another road, another teacher, or another distraction. Sometimes we need to sit honestly with what is already in the heart and stop running from what must be seen. There are times in our own lives when we stand before a truth we do not want to face. We may turn toward comfort, or we may punish ourselves with harsh effort, but neither side gives real peace. The story of Siddhartha beneath the Bodhi tree gently shows another way. To become still, to stop escaping, to meet the heart with courage and patience. May we also find a quiet place within ourselves, and may we remain there long enough to see our lives with wisdom, compassion, and peace. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, Mara appears at the final threshold before awakening. Fear, desire, and doubt try one last time to shake Siddhartha's heart. I will share that moment of temptation and stillness in the next story.